All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the I Don't Know Shit About Boxing show. There we go, baby. If you are new to the program, let me just explain a little bit quickly. You might think, why would I want to listen to a guy that don't know shit about boxing? But I believe most of us don't know shit about boxing. The late, great Roger Mayweather said, most people don't know shit about boxing. And I think it is very true. A lot of the times people like to discuss the sport with a very arrogant point of view, a lot of ego involved. You see, there's a lot of commentators right now that are getting themselves in a bit of trouble because of their mouths. And I think if we take a more humble approach, take a step back, realize that, hey, at the end of the day, even if we are hardcore fans, compared to the grand scheme of things, we don't really know shit about the sport. So, that being said, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe. And what I want to talk about today, in the I Don't Know Shit About Boxing show is I want to talk about Dimitri Bivol, the fight we saw this past weekend, I should say. I know I'm a few days late on this, but the Dimitri Bivol performance, as well as what the WBC ordered this weekend with their fights as well. So, that being said, we can get right into it. Let's talk about Bivol's win. This guy just completely shut down Zurdo Ramirez. I mean, going into this fight, it was one of those things where Zurdo's the bigger guy, he's the lengthier guy, but we had a lot of questions about his resume coming into it. We thought, okay, this guy hasn't really fought the top tier opponents. I know when I would see Oscar talk about, oh, he's 44 and 0, he's going to break Mayweather's record of 50 and 0. Excuse me. I was like, bro, even if he does, how can you compare the two? By the time Mayweather was like 25 and 0, he was only fighting world champion level opposition. And Zurdo, it wasn't the case. I don't know the exact stats, but it was like maybe a handful, one, two, three tops of world champion level fighters. So that being said, if anybody wants to fact check me on that, please, because I don't have those stats pulled up. And for the sake of the flow of the show, I don't want to go ahead and start researching it on the live broadcast. That being said, this was one of those things where, just like the Canelo fight, Canelo tried to walk forward, use that pressure. Even though Canelo can fight in a different style, he tried to use that same walk forward pressure that he did against Callum Smith, and it didn't work against Bivol. And that style that Zurdo uses, being a bigger guy, also didn't work as well, that come forward pressure. And the reason being is because you have a guy like Bivol who can sit here and out rhythm you, who can hit you off the rhythm, who can, when you're stepping back, he covers that space. You don't have a second to breathe really with this guy Bivol in front of you. You're always second guessing yourself. You're fighting this guy Bivol, but you're also fighting your own instincts, because now, instead of, and there's a lot of video breakdowns on YouTube. If you want to look out like Dimitri Bivol breakdown, look at what I'm talking about. He comes in and this guy will sit here and, feint you, step forward. When you step back, you try to hit, he takes a step back. He makes you not able to commit to your own punches. And when you're somebody who solely relies on that and has always been able to rely on that, it breaks you down slowly and slowly and slowly. And one of the things I have to say too, I'm really disappointed in Ramirez coming out and saying, "Oh, I won the fight. I did what I was supposed to do. I threw more punches, this and that." It would, like, the night of, when he was like, "Yeah, it is what it is, blah blah blah." I would say, "Okay, perfect. I want to see him fight again, and let's see him fight world champion opposition." Just like you see a guy in Caleb Plant who took that first loss and now has a chip on his shoulder saying, I want to come back. I need to get this back. Instead of these other guys that are kind of trying to protect their O and not really fighting that top opposition. Now you've taken that loss. The cards are on the table. Let's go out there. Let's make these good fights. But instead, Zurdo kind of said, oh, I should have won that. They robbed me, this and that. Bro, how can you look back at that fight, watch that entire fight, unbiased, and say that you won? And especially for his team, if his team's telling him that he won, he needs to get a new team, because you can't have yes men around you like that. Anyways, not to take away from Bivol's win, Bivol came in there, did, like I said, just made made Zerto double think to the point where he couldn't commit on his own shots. And that was something that you saw somebody like, I know this is a horrible example in hindsight, but Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., when he was a champion of the world at 160, he was somebody who was able to walk through his opponents and was able to get those shots off. When he fought a guy like Sergio Martinez, who was able to feint him and not get him to a point where he could commit on those shots, he couldn't even get off shots until, of course, that dramatic 12th round. But if that puts it into perspective, that's kind of the way Bivol does it. But I would say with maybe a little more flair than Sergio Martinez, because some of the Sergio Martinez performance could be a little boring. And I guess you could say the same about Bivol's wins. But that being said, everybody wants to see the undisputed matchup now. Who's the better champion at 175 pounds? I think there's a good argument for both sides of Bivol or Artur Beterbiev. Man, Artur Beterbiev is a guy who is 175 pounds of just pure force, pure violence. You saw what he did to Joe Smith Jr. Shut him out. But when we're talking about somebody who uses that aggression, who's able to throw hard shots, and somebody who can disrupt that, that's Dimitri Bivol. So this is why this fight is so intriguing. And I feel like for the sport, this is the fight that the fans need. 100%. So who would win? Bivol or Beterbiev? You tell me. But unfortunately, doesn't look like we're going to see that fight next, or maybe even the fight after. We might have to wait until 2024 to see this fight, which is very sad, especially with all the politics involved. I hope they can get this squared away. The reason why is because the WBC ordered a few fights over the weekend. Let me go ahead and present these. Just a moment. So we have the WBC convention division breakdown by breakdown. So what I want to get into, forget about heavyweight, bridgerweight, cruiserweight, all of this shit real quickly. First, we'll talk about all of this, but first I want to talk about the light heavyweight division, right? So we see here, if we're able to see, light heavyweight, as previously reported by BoxingScene.com. And here's something else, right? Before we even get into what the WBC ordered, let's talk about this real quick. Before WBC ordered anything, we already knew that Beterbiev is going to fight Anthony Yarde in a matchup. I think it's for the WBO mandatory or the IBF mandatory, one of those mandatories. Or I don't even know if it's a mandatory, but I just know he's going to fight him, I guess, in England first, which is whatever. Okay, sure. Because Bivol, there was rumors about him rematching Canelo. Canelo's just had surgery, so Canelo's out. So this would be the perfect time at the beginning of the year to go ahead and get these titles squared away. But no, we're going to see this Anthony Yarde fight, which I'm surprised hasn't even been announced yet, because Beterbiev's fight was in June. So that should have already been announced, probably happening like December. For them to be pushing that and dragging on that is just disappointing, because we need to get this, get it going, get the train moving so we can see this undisputed fight. This is a fight that boxing needs. This is the fight that the fans want to see. So that being said, he's got to fight Yarde. He'll probably beat Yarde, assuming he beats Yarde. Then we get into this mandatory now discussed by the WBC. Here we go. Light heavyweight. As previously reported by Boxing.com, Callum Smith, 29-1. Of course, that one defeat was a lopsided 12-round loss to Canelo Alvarez, was confirmed as a mandatory challenger. He will be due a title shot, but first will take a stay busy fight in which he must win to maintain a number one ranking. Basically, he could fight somebody's grandpa and still keep that number one spot. Meanwhile, lineal WBC, IBF, WBO champ Artur Beterbiev, 18-0, 18 KOs, will next face WBO mandatory. Okay, there we go. Anthony Yarde on January 28th. Oh, it's in January 28th. Dude, why don't I see? This is why I say I don't know shit about boxing. Why don't I just read? Literally, if I read 2 sentences, all my questions will be answered. But remember, I don't know shit about boxing. This is why I need guys to comment and tell me what I don't know in real time. Please, I'm live for a reason. So, at January 28th, my birthday, at the O2 in London. That'll be a good fight. With a win, Beterbiev will be permitted to explore an undisputed clash with WBA titleist Dimitri Bivol before having to face Smith. Oh! What? Why don't I just read one paragraph before I go down this whole tangent of, oh, the boxing, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Shout out the WBC. The WBC, for them to say, hey, Callum Smith is the mandatory, but Arthur Beterbiev has to face Anthony Yard, and then we're going to allow him to explore the undisputed clash. If they can't make that fight happen, you got to fight Callum Smith. I like that. I'm cool with that. I am cool with that. You know what I'm saying? So let's get, May, latest, June, latest, this undisputed clash going on, because I feel like Beterbiev is going to make some pretty easy work of Yard. No offense to Yard. I know he has those little cool videos and whatnot on YouTube. But that being said, we can get into the rest of the fights that the WBC ordered. So let's go ahead and get into these and actually read the paragraphs before I start spewing out nonsense, because remember, I don't know shit about boxing, and I'm over here saying shit, and then 1 second later I read and everything gets answered. So let's get right into it. Shit, man. All right. So we're going to get back into what fights have been ordered. Let's go down from the bottom. You know what I mean? So all of these fights, guess who gives a shit? Not me. Not me. Sorry to the lower weight fighters. Don't really care about y'all. So junior bantamweight, don't even care. Bantamweight is probably the lowest I'll go, because you got a monster like Inoue and a guy like Donaire, who I've been a fan of for so long. They're already doing Inoue versus Butler set for December 13th. Woo! That's solid fight, undisputed. And then he might go up to 122. And then Fulton is taking a break from 122. He's going up to 126, which is straight. I like when they do that, because the weight classes are so small that they need to be doing that. And then a request was approved for Stephen Fulton and Brandon Figueroa to have a rematch for an interim featherweight title fight. That's solid. I'm cool with that. That was a good fight. Junior lightweight. So this is 130. Ray Vargas and Oshak Foster. Sorry if I butchered that name. And sorry for anybody that's like, oh, you don't know Foster? Come on. I don't know shit about boxing, remember? Anyways, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? This is the one that I'm talking about, right? The lightweight division. Let's get into the lightweight 135-pound division. Bro, stuff goes down at lightweight. Lightweight is one of those hot divisions, and we need to see some clarity in it. We've had too long with no clarity. Finally, we have an undisputed champion. But in what other psycho world planet do you have an undisputed champion who isn't on any of the pound-for-pound rankings, top 10? And then on top of that, you got people saying that there's other guys in the division that are better than the undisputed champion. Bro, we need to get some clarity going on. It looks like, and then of course, you got other guys entering the fray like Shakur Stevenson. Wild. So we need to get some clarification going on. We need to get some, we just need closure to this division. We have, it looks like Devin Haney's going to fight Lomachenko. That's going to be a good fight. I would put my money on Haney, especially considering Lomachenko looked a little bit older in his last fight. But Lomachenko's still Lomachenko. He could pull it off. Let's go ahead and read this before I go down another tangent again, right? So lightweight, as previously reported by BoxingScene.com, a final eliminator was ordered between former two-division champ Shakur Stevenson, 19-0, 9 KOs, and current top contender Isaac Pitbull Cruz, 24-2 and 1. The winner, if the fight takes place, which is highly unlikely, will be named mandatory challenger to current undisputed champ Devin Haney. So when they say if the fight takes place, highly unlikely, it's because obviously you have one over at PBC, one at Top Rank. This is a fight that they really need to make. Dude, if you make Shakur versus Isaac Cruz, that is a good-ass fight. And the other thing, too, is if I'm the WBC, if Top Rank doesn't want to play ball and give up, or one of them doesn't want to play ball, then both of them get skipped. Both of them get skipped in line. None of them become mandatories. Because if you order this and then you allow them to not face each other, face somebody else that's in some of the Top Rank whatever, play a little politics, go out for dinner. Oh, yeah, everything's cool, Mauricio. And then next thing you know, now one of them are fighting Devin Haney. Not cool. Not happening. I would much rather see, because technically Devin's going to be facing his WBO mandatory, which is Lomachenko. Kambosos was the IBF mandatory back when he fought what's his face, Tio. So I don't know that there's an IBF mandatory out there. If there is, comment, please let me know. Now we have a WBA regular champion that should at any point say, hey, I want to become mandatory for the real title, and that's Gervonta Davis. But what it looks like is we first are going to see, and we probably should need to see, him versus Ryan Garcia. That is probably the biggest fight, pay-per-views, everything in the lightweight division. The winner of that fight, if Shakur and Isaac Cruz don't fight first and they don't make that fight first, then the winner of Tank versus Ryan can fight for undisputed. Bottom line. The WBA then they get preference. They get the first shot in line for their challenger to fight for the undisputed title against Devin Haney. That's what I'm saying. If you don't agree, let me know why. There'll probably be some sort of rematch in that fight. Ryan versus Gervonta, especially if Ryan wins. If Gervonta wins, I don't see Gervonta giving Ryan a rematch unless it does like crazy numbers and Gervonta just thinks, that wasn't a hard fight. Because you see somebody like Isaac Cruz, who on 2 weeks' notice gave Gervonta probably the hardest fight of his whole career, and some would even say won that fight. Hasn't got a rematch. He hasn't got another big fight. This is a huge fight for him, and he needs to be discussed at the top, especially in front of Shakur Stevenson, who hasn't even fought at the weight class yet. Anyways, all that being said, junior welterweight title eliminator order between lineal unified lightweight, some would say undisputed champ Teofimo Lopez and Spain's Sandor Martin. That's a good fight. The winner will have a long wait to challenge for the full title, not to mention the order is on hold pending the outcome of Lopez's December 10th meeting of Jose Pedraza. Of course, Jose Zepeda and Regis Prograis will now meet November 26th for the vacant title, with the winner already required to face WBC, WBO titleist Jose Ramirez. Oh, former. I was about to say. But yeah, damn. So the winner of Zepeda versus Prograis has to fight Ramirez. And then the winner of that fight. So we're looking at like this time next year. Welterweight. Looks like Earl Spence was instructed to face mandatory challenger and former unified titleist Keith one-time Thurman. Damn, we hope that fight doesn't really happen. But I don't even want to talk about Earl Spence and Crawford and none of that nonsense, because that shit just makes me sad. Junior middleweight. WBC ordered a final eliminator between interim WBC titleist Sebastian Fundora and former full titleist Tony Harrison. The winner will be named mandatory challenger to face undisputed Jermall Charlo, who next defends against WBO number 1 Tim Tszyu on January 28th, my birthday. That'll be a good one. A good day for boxing on my birthday. Middleweight. The division will remain on hold, a holding pattern, as the WBC will meet with undefeated champ Jermall Charlo to determine when his fit return to ring. Interim titleist Carlos Adames was granted permission to next enter voluntary title defense with hopes of being named mandatory challenger. He needs to. Why would you have Jermall Charlo? Let me go into rant mode real quick. Rant mode activated. Jermall Charlo has been fighting even how do I even start this rant? Even what's his face? The king, everybody's uncle, favorite person in boxing, Mike Tyson, had him on his podcast talking about, why don't you fight anybody? Why don't you fight David Beterbiev? Why don't you fight this, that? Charlo's just been waiting so long for a Canelo opportunity, and now it is so clear that he's not going to get that. especially with the next fight we're going to talk about at super middleweight, you're not going to get a Canelo fight. That being said, and no disrespect, you know what I'm saying? I know I'm just a frustrated fan because I've always been a fan of Jermall Charlo. So I want to see you showcase your talent against the best fighters. Look at what your brother's doing, bro. Bro, look at what your brother's doing. He's undisputed. Undisputed. Right now, 160 is up for grabs, bro. You got Triple G, who's 40 years old, has 2 of the titles. Boom, you could take those off of him, beat the brakes off of Triple G. Easy. But he's already got 2 mandatories lined up. So too late. You should have had that underway before the Canelo fight even happened with Triple G. You should have been like, yo, I'm going to fight Triple G, win or lose, blah, blah, blah. All of this, right? Now we got Janibek, who's maybe going to fight Munguia in the future once Munguia fights whoever. He's, you know what I mean? Munguia don't want to fight nobody. So this is your chance to unify with the WBO. Maybe you'll get a big fight with Munguia, but I doubt it. And then from there, once all of that is squared away, if Lara ends up beating Triple G, which by the time they fight, he might, you can have an undisputed showdown with Lara. And then Lara at that point is old too. Bro, it's going to like by this point next year, bro, you should be a unified champion, if not on your way, already scheduled for an undisputed showdown. But who knows what Charlo's doing, man. This is where it's just so frustrating in boxing, especially with this guy. So we'll see what's up. He needs to fight Adames, though. If you have a interim champion now in your division, go ahead and fight him, bro, because you ain't doing fuck all else. You know, and people will be like, oh, well, what about when Canelo was the champion and he didn't fight Charlo? He was doing way better shit than fighting the interim WBC champ. He was doing way better shit. He was unifying, going up to like heavyweight, knocking out Kovalev, fucking doing everything, bro. What's Charlo doing? Fuck all. That's what he's doing. So that's what I believe needs to happen. Remember, I don't know shit about boxing. Again, as I was mentioning, super middleweight. This is the reason why Charlo ain't never getting a Canelo shot. Because now the WBC approved a forthcoming clash between interim titles. Like, this was a fight already made, and then the WBC is like, hey, we're just going to stamp more significance onto this fight. With interim titleist David Benavidez, a former 2-time full WBC champ, and former IBF titleist Caleb Plant as a final eliminator. Meaning, whoever wins this fight is now the interim champion, either still or and new interim champion, and then is a final eliminator for Canelo Alvarez. So this is en route for, I mean, this is what Caleb Plant wanted. He said, yo, I'm going to bury Durrell, which he did, and then I'm coming for, as Mike Tyson calls the boogeyman of the division, the Mexican monster, David Benavidez. I'm taking him head on. And we're going to see if David Benavidez is the real deal, like everybody says. So I believe he is. But Caleb Plant showed that he was the real deal too. This is a good-ass fight. This is a good-ass fight. This is the type of shit that gets me excited about boxing, is Benavidez versus Plant. And then anyways, we go to light heavyweight. We already talked about that. Cruiserweight, Makabu's going to fight somebody who nobody knows about. And then the guy who he fought in January, Machunu, honestly, I thought beat him, who lost a highly questionable decision to Makabu in their January 29th rematch. Yeah, so they're going to have a third fight, probably, if Machunu can beat Badu Jack. But Badu Jack just came off of a tough fight and a questionable fight against our guy, Popeye. You know what I mean? That was Popeye's fight to win. So hopefully Popeye can get back in the fray. But Badu Jack at cruiserweight didn't look too good. Knowing him, he'll probably get another draw. My man's got mad draws. Bridgerweight, nobody cares. Oscar Rivas versus Ryan Rozecki rematch. And then heavyweight, this is a big fight. A final eliminator was ordered between former titleist Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz. The winner will be named mandatory challenger to the lineal WBC champ Tyson Fury. I doubt that'll happen, especially if Wilder wins, which I think he will win. Who next faces Jarrett Chisora in a trilogy that nobody asked for. Worst fight of all time for Tyson Fury. Just absolutely fucking terrible fight. So, yeah, that being said, what do y'all think about the mandatories that were ordered? Are y'all excited about these? You let me know. That being said, we're done here today. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much. Remember, I don't know shit about boxing. I appreciate all of y'all. Peace.